Today, I've got another amazing guest, my friend Yvan Demosthenes.
Perfect.
Yes.
You got it.
How you doing, Yvan?
Doing great, my friend.
So I know we've got a little bit of background, Yvan, but just give us a brief introduction of yourself and who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Donnie. I'm here in Cincinnati, Ohio, married to a beautiful, amazing woman, 3 wonderful, beautiful kids, and been in the recruitment space for, going on 16, 17 years. I usually like to start my story that I was born in Haiti. Parents came over here to America when I was 6 months old.
Oh, nice.
And so it played an important part of my life, right? Because I was often the only immigrant Haitian in my groups.
Right.
Living in Ohio, weren't a lot of Haitians in the 80s running around, right?
Oh, really? That's surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little surprising, but it's the truth. So made my way to Cincinnati, and as chance would have it, as I got into my professional career after undergrad, I had the opportunity to get on board with Career Builder.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great time to be in this area in the field because we were just coming off Y2K, and my contacts were having a hard time with Outlook. And on top of that, they not only did they have difficulty emailing and receiving emails, but companies were bringing integrating career sites into their websites, right?
Mm-hmm.
And along comes Career Builder that can kind of help solve all that. So overnight, I dive into the recruiting game, but not just as a job board specialist in advertising, but I was able to help with integrating into applicant tracking systems, talent management suites, and really helped with different areas in their talent acquisition, and gained some trust where they thought I could add some benefit to diversity. And from there, I was invited to kind of take the lead in our region as the diversity expert specialist, so to speak. So overnight, not only did I work on my own book of business, but I was working on other books of business too. So from there, went to Monster, same role.
Yep.
And if for those that remember, Monster partnered with iHispano, which was kind of like the first type of LinkedIn. They were a platform that provided a forum for Spanish-speaking professionals to, kind of bounce ideas off of each other, network, etc. And Monster used that as really their first type of diversity platform for companies to leverage. Right?
Nice.
So kind of like the first LinkedIn before LinkedIn was even there. So worked with them very closely, and they turned into changed their name to Professional Diversity Network. And I went to work for them after 6 years with Monster. And after some time there, decided to go out on my own with my business partner, who's an Air Force veteran. So we became a certified veteran-owned company under the name HamiltonDemo. His name is Sean Hamilton. Demo short for Demosthenes, hence the name. A lot of people think it's a demolition company at first listen, but it's just you may or may not know this, Donnie, but it's one of the hardest things to do in business is try to find a name that resonates in the marketplace that hasn't been taken.
Yep.
And after about 3 months of coming up with every name in the book that was already registered, we finally settled on HamiltonDemo.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've been doing that for the past 3.5, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, it's been great. It's been a wonderful experience helping clients on all levels of human capital. Our focus is in executive placement and recruitment with a specialty in diversity placement and executive recruiting. We like to say that we can help from hourly all the way to the boardroom. But it may not surprise you to know that our clients often invite us to help them in other areas as well.
Of course, yeah.
So
awesome, man.
projects. We're really good at doing projects, and yeah, just really having a blast.
Excellent. Excellent. So I want to take a step back. You've got 3 kids, you're running your own business. What's that like?
Yeah, well, you could probably tell as you heard the microwave and
Yeah.
the sink and plates clicking and clanking and everything else in the background. It's it's a balance.
Yep.
But like I said, I've got a wonderful wife where the kids are actually, they're really great. They're very active, but we have a very strong community here where we live in Cincinnati.
Awesome.
So other than the taxi driving and the homework at night and everything else is pretty normal. Things that we can plan on and manage for sure.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. My wife and I have a great partnership like that too. And we've got a little team that we're running around with. And it's obviously helps when when they get that kind of relationship and partnership.
Oh yeah. That's cute. You call it partnership. I just call it, I do what she tells me to do.
So. Yeah. You're a real boss. There you go.
There you go. She's my real boss. She's really running things.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be lying if I wasn't saying the same. So hopefully she's listening right now too. So
yes, my wife is hearing me.
Yeah,
my boss. I'm sorry.
Your boss. Yeah, our bosses are listening. So
yes.
Well, so awesome. So you guys started HamiltonDemo 3 years ago. Yeah, you and your buddy partnered up, hence the name HamiltonDemo. What's the team at right now? Where are you guys at right now?
So my partner and I are the 2 main owners.
Okay.
He owns 51%. I own 49%. And then we have a non-equity partner.
Okay.
So she's been there since day one, ever since we were trying to formulate everything on paper, business plan, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then right now we've got 3 kind of full-time consultants, contractors that we're working with.
Okay.
And yeah. So if things go well, we're looking to bring another 2 or 3 on board here in the next calendar year.
Awesome.
So that's where we are right now.
Perfect, man. That's great. And I know everybody loves to celebrate the successes, but as you went out on your own, coming from kind of that career and Monster and the other stuff that you were doing, what kind of challenges did you face, when you first started the company?
Well, Donnie, I think you and your audience could probably guess what the big challenges are, right? I think one of my big areas that I like to rely on and strength that's really made me successful are my relationships within the space.
Got it.
But coming to those relationships and telling them, forget everything I sold to you before and talked to you about, HamiltonDemo is the way to go. Right? That's not always as easy of a sell, as you may want to think it is. Even though they like me and my contacts can be very supportive, they have often found themselves ingrained in whatever solutions that they've previously invested in. Mm-hmm. And if it's not broken, no need to fix it. Right. So with that, I'd say that's a little bit of a challenge. But on the other side, although those conversions have not happened quickly, they are happening. They're trickling in slowly but surely. So 3.5 years ago, my first call to my close industry relationships, where I said, "Hey, come on board. What do we need to do?" They're like, "We're really proud of you, happy. Hope you're successful. Can't do anything now." Right. Fast forward, it start happening slowly but surely, and really pleased to see that it. I shared with you before that at heart, I consider myself a salesperson at heart, just a sales guy that ended up being in recruiting and diversity. Mm-hmm. And it really makes you feel good when you know that you've done right by people. Mm-hmm. They count on you, and they remember those things, right? They remember the Saturdays that they called and that you were with your family and you took time to help solve problems. They remember when they called you on a Tuesday afternoon, when they had a meeting Wednesday morning at 8:00 with their CEO, and asked you for help on research, etc. Those types of things, right?
Yep.
So they remember those things, and yeah, looking forward to a lot more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously last year we had the infamous COVID come in and disrupt a lot of lives and businesses and you know, obviously even bigger impacts than that. But you know, as a company, how were you guys able to kind of navigate those waters and put yourself into the position now here heading into 2021, you know, with the opportunity of possibly expanding your team?
Yeah, so that's great, Donnie. If you don't mind me sharing a little bit more detail with you,
Mm-hmm.
because things came to a halting stop, right? A
Right.
screeching stop.
Yep.
And 2019 was really a year where we created a lot of traction, right? So we had some really uh, intimate and deep conversations around strategy, implementation, and rollouts with some pretty big companies. And you know, I remember November, December of 2019, where we're like looking at each other and like, hey, I can't believe this is happening this quickly, right?
Right.
And as we're crossing T's and dotting I's, just getting ready to kind of launch, uh, COVID happened, second week of March. I mean, literally, we're sitting there just putting the paperwork together,
Yep.
getting everybody on both sides, having everybody in place where they need to be, and you know, same thing that happened to everyone. So unfortunately, some of those opportunities failed,
Right.
uh, and we don't know if they're ever going to come back. But then there's a few other opportunities that stayed. And
Right.
what happened is we were able to make some strategic decisions where there were a couple of clients where we felt that it was in their best interest, just as being good partners and advocates for what they were doing, to help them, and not as much as we could at the time,
Right.
and continue to help bring them along to what they needed to be done. And that helped them a lot. And again, back to the relationship part, they were able to see the benefits and really appreciate what we did. And at the end, we did pick up other opportunities that came out of nowhere,
Right.
right? Just
Yep.
from friends and people that we tried to reach out to before, and our networks as well, and some things that we didn't see coming, which was great. So at the end of the year, we're actually one of the lucky ones. Although year three, we have a profit, and our revenues exceeded our target goals that we set for ourselves.
Excellent,
So
man.
really happy with that. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it could have definitely been worse. We were able to put our heads together, try to make the best of a bad situation,
Yep.
and found a way to succeed.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what I, you know, working with a lot of recruiters, you know, doing what I do. I think a lot of those that, you know, just kind of kept their head down and focused on what they could control. You know, some were getting business, others were, you know, of course, in markets that were just didn't matter what you were going to do. There was nothing really
Yeah,
going on. But, you know, looking at where a lot of people are right now that took action last year, you know, similar to like what you did and focused on the relationships and the strategy, they're in a good position like you are. So that's great to hear.
yeah. And you know what I think what helped us too is I feel like we were really focused on the traction that we got, focusing on these big
Right.
kind of deals that were on the horizon. And when everything stopped, when COVID hit, it forced us to reach out to other partners, so to speak,
Right.
make alliances with others that we may not have had the bandwidth to align ourselves with before. Try some new things, partner on some projects with others,
Right.
right? Uh, and you know, rather than maybe being a placement specialist for a week, I was a sourcer, right?
Yep. Yep.
And those those things really lent itself well to us, and helped us get to where we
Yep.
are today.
Got to be nimble.
Have to, we
Yep.
really do.
Yeah. So I know, you know, you've mentioned it a couple times already. I know going through your profile, diversity and inclusion is a big part of what you do. I mean, let's just start from the top. I mean, what is diversity and inclusion? Like, what does that mean to you?
Great question. That's my first question to my clients. So first of all, Donnie, I'm D&I certified, right? But I've backed into and really walked into diversity from a talent acquisition perspective, from recruiting, right?
Right.
So when I first started, I would share in all my solutions and all my presentations to all these Fortune 500 companies. Hey, postings, resume database, integrating with your ATS, and here's a diversity strategy. So my boss recognized that and was like, you really, this really is important to you. And when he made me that diversity specialist, I became aware that a lot of times when people are asking for diversity, they think it's a quick fix. So that's the first question I asked them, because one of my, in addition to a lot of different industries being in the job board space, I realized diversity wasn't the same thing in every company.
Right.
Right. So asking that question, really, you can always see the light bulb go off. And it's kind of like somewhere in between, like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Right. Like,
Right.
don't you know what I mean? Diversity, it's diversity. But that could be socioeconomic, it could be cultural,
Mm-hmm.
it could be those with disabilities, and the list goes on and on, right? It's
Right.
not always the obvious,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not going to be obvious to the person sitting across from you,
Right.
right? So once we ask that question, we can define, and then we have an opportunity to measure success. Because as I said, it's not as easy as snapping the finger, right?
Right.
So what I found for myself, getting back to your question, I think I was able to really build a level of trust with my clients. And what I found is, once we were able to build that trust and they could see some results from what we've implemented or what we had implemented, they they found it easier to approach me for other diversity and inclusion issues or concerns or questions, right? They'd ask me to
Right.
do research. They would tell me, hey, we're searching for a firm to consult and do benchmarking. Can you do it for me? So I would find myself bringing my company in at the time to assist the organizations with that. So really, I'm really a talent acquisition guy who has kind of fallen into the diversity
Mm-hmm.
space, and I always try to lead with that first. Whether it's an organization asking me to assist with focus
Mm-hmm.
groups, which we do, helping them with ERGs and how the best way to create ERGs, roll them out in their companies and manage them, which I do too, right?
Right.
And it always really starts from the recruiting side, and I think that's really just my approach. I don't think I would recommend that necessarily for someone coming into this space or somebody trying to get into D&I necessarily, but that's
Mm-hmm.
where my strength is, and so
Right.
far it's allowed me to provide a sense of comfort and trust for my clients and what I'm able to do for them.
That's awesome. So what,
Yeah.
since this is a focus of yours, like what is your goal? What is the impact that you're trying to make, with being focused on diversity inclusion? Like, I'm sure there's something there that's a driver. So.
Oh, well, I think just like I said, just being a Haitian kid in a small town,
Right.
sitting in a class where, there weren't a lot of kids that looked like me, if any. I think like the closest kids that looked like me were from Vietnam or the Philippines, right?
Right.
From what I'm remembering, there was no one from Haiti. So growing up and kind of going through school and being with different groups, it never ceased to amaze me the impact of diverse groups when they got together.
Yeah.
Like the more hodgepodge and diverse and people that came from kind of like everywhere, the ones that really didn't make sense together, they always seemed to overachieve,
Right.
right to the point where they stood out. And, educating myself a little bit more, getting my MBA and understanding business and how, diversity works in corporate America, it just continued to resonate. And the same thing keeps repeating itself. So
Right.
I'm happy to bring some of that to my clients. And I think that's really what drives me. And, being in recruiting, you hear and experience some phenomenal things that I don't think you ever expect,
Right.
when you deal with people, you always have to be prepared for the unexpected.
Right.
But it never gets old to uh, find a position for someone and thank you for the new role, right?
Right.
Whether it's getting somebody a job at Chipotle or finding a role for someone as a director of e-commerce for a retail company or a regional manager for a grocery chain, um, lawyer in a
Right.
West Coast law firm, and they thank you, it feels good, right? And
Mhm.
on the other side, when you're able to deliver a high quality candidate to a company and they continue to thank you for that candidate years afterwards,
Right.
or a nonprofit when you're able to help them find an executive director, I mean, it never gets old, right? And so
Yep.
I really do like that. And just trying to do the right thing for everybody, try
Yep.
to put my mark
Yep.
in a positive way.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. That's such a cool story. And it's so interesting how, different pockets of the United States are different things, like you're saying, you growing up, you went to a classroom, there's not a bunch of people that look like you. And where I grew up in South San Jose, where I went to high school, there was actually a bunch of people that didn't look like me. I was more California is diverse can get, and it was a blessing because, that's all I experienced growing up was being around different folks from different cultures, all the way from elementary school all the way in through high school. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting to hear like your story is like the opposite, where you're just the token,
Same
one
story,
guy
but
that
the
yep,
diversity is different, right? They
yep,
mirror each other, but yeah, it's getting back to what you said about what does that mean to you
right,
exactly, right? So,
mhm,
I get it, and I think there's sometimes there's a fear, right?
right,
The apprehension that happens, and the fear is really people just feel overwhelmed.
hmm,
And I've found myself in a position where I can comfort them and provide a little guidance where they don't feel as overwhelmed, right?
right,
And ultimately, we're all looking for deep diversity.
right,
Depending on how you say it or what you do or how you write it on the board, we're all looking uh, for individuals who can bring us something different to the group, something
yep,
different to your organization, whatever that may be, from your experience to skill set, etc. We're all looking for that, and ultimately, sorry to go on a rant here, but ultimately, diversity really means just doing things a little bit different, right?
right,
So you've got our brethren out there, our cohorts who recruit, and they fish in the same pond all the time.
right,
Well, sometimes go swim in another pond,
right,
right? If you're using the same tool over and over again, getting your recs closed, that's great. But maybe you're getting the same type of person over and over and over again.
right,
And when you're looking for that, when it comes down the pike to find someone a little bit more specific, uh, maybe a little bit different than what you've usually got. Maybe there's a nuance to this role that you're looking for. If you can't find them, use that opportunity to maybe do things a little bit different.
right,
Uh, you know, I some people who know me may may roll their eyes a little bit because I hate change, right? I still have I have a cable bill that comes to the house. It's mailed every month. I walk out to the mailbox, get the envelope, come in, write the check, put the check in the envelope, send it back, and I have my cable and I'm happy, right?
Right.
So no, I'm the only one in the house that watches cable. Everybody else is like on Uber and Netflix and all this other stuff.
Right. Right.
But and so um yeah, use that opportunity to do things a little bit different, take a little different approach. And I think most of us will be pleasantly happy. It may be a little harder, but I think in the end, the results will definitely pay off.
Got it. What do you think, like, is it, and I know this is a loaded question here, so we'll try to bring it in. Yep. I mean, what do you think if you could identify, like, and I guess there's not really one way to put it, but like, where do you feel like the biggest opportunity for organizations everywhere, to improve on their diversity and inclusion? Like from the outside looking in, you're on the floor doing this every single day. I mean, what do you think with that?
Yeah, I actually, Donnie, I think just what I said. I think you've got your recruiting teams and you've got your platforms, and
Yep.
you've got like your default scrapes that you're scraping off your job boards, and you've I think for every positive that you can think with automating your recruiting force, there's definitely opportunities to do things a little bit different, right?
Right.
And when you do that, I think there's a lot of opportunity for discovery of other pools, other resources that can deliver some ROI to you. Now, so I think that's the biggest opportunity. And if I could just share a little story with you again.
Please do. Yeah.
When I first started, you went to all these Fortune 500 companies, and it was very clear that they did not spare any expense on their people. They knew how important it was to get the right people at the right time. And, all the development and everything that happened afterwards was great, but they would post on Hot Jobs, they would post on Career Builder, they would post on Monster, and they would use every other resource out there they could use, from employment agencies to other firms, private firms that would help them. Around 2008, 2009, with the economic downturn that happened there, I personally saw where everything kind of changed, where everybody was trying to shoot with an arrow more than like trying to catch with a net, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to be so precise. And yeah, their big thing was that there was a lot of replication. True. But how many potential candidates fall through the cracks because you're only on one job board, you're only doing one thing, and you're using it for everything, right? Rather than trying to come up with a strategy where you try to cover as much as you can to grab everyone out there. I mean, you're really going from a majority of the workforce that you used to capture to a smaller segment of the working population,
right,
that you're continuing to rebrand yourself to and remarket yourself, over and over.
Right. Love it.
Yeah.
So, now that we're past, well, hopefully, let's say we're turning the corner on COVID, you got some momentum backed up. What are you most excited about next? I mean, what's next for you? What are you fired up for?
Oh, so we've got some strategic things that we've been working on that hopefully, I don't know what the future lies for us, Donnie, but I'd love to come back in the future. And once they're in place and things are going, I can hopefully share that with you. But I can share that we're making some tremendous headway in healthcare. We started with a huge D&I plan around recruiting with a local healthcare network here in the tri-state area that's growing like crazy, and we're trying to replicate that in other healthcare networks. So that's great. Branching ourselves out, we may have an opportunity for when we talk again for me to talk to you about one of the major sporting associations / leagues. I won't tell you which one it is, but yeah, this is pretty exciting stuff. So I think I think with everything that happened in 2020, the conversations become louder, right?
Right.
More people, there are more companies, more organizations that are being compelled to have the conversation where they previously uh, maybe didn't take the conversation out of the boardroom.
Right.
Now they're being compelled to invite others in and to gain more knowledge. So from that, I'm hoping that there's going to be a lot more action because, as you know, I'm sure your previous interviewees have shared with you, and yourself that there's not enough of us to fill all the roles,
Right.
right?
Right.
So we're going to have to do better on so many different levels, and those companies that do a better job, those are the ones that are going to be successful. And we can't just look at these big iconic brands and let them get all the best people,
Right.
right? The more you do that, the more that you're going to find that you're going to give up market share. The more that you find that you're going to be playing behind the eight ball, you're going to get deals and revenue that they don't want, right?
Right.
So you're going to end up being a value company, a company that provides value rather than being the preferred vendor or the preferred company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all those things really kind of come together and are intertwined. So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to some great things. I think hourly workers as well. There might be an opportunity there, not just for us but others, because hourly workers have been really tough.
Right.
And for some of the same reasons I mentioned to you, but there's so many roles out there. If you're an hourly worker, if for some reason you wake up and you don't feel like going to work, you want to spend the day with your kids and they let you go for not calling in, you can literally have a job by the next morning, right? Maybe even making more money. So I think there's going to be some opportunities there to bring some good employees to some larger companies that are looking for this like top-notch hourly workers as well.
Yep. Get that top talent, not just any talent.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I hate to say this, but sometimes these service organizations, these service companies, whether it's logistics, restaurants, whatever it is, they rely on manpower, and sometimes they will hire out of desperation,
Right.
rather than the right fit, right?
Yep.
So that doesn't do anybody any good, really.
Right.
There are success stories, but those are the exception to the rules. Usually, there's a lot of turnover and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to having more opportunities like that, where the candidate matches better with the organization. There's opportunities for them to grow, right? And develop within those organizations.
Yeah. Excellent, man. Well, thank you for hanging out with me, and definitely want to circle back with you in a couple months once you get that next initiative up and running. I'm confident you're going to make that happen there.
Yeah.
Before we go, where can our audience connect with you, man? Where's the best way for them to follow you at?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy. I'm on LinkedIn. My name's pretty long, but Yvan Demosthenes, Ivan with the Y.
Just copy and paste it from the title of this interview here.
Yeah, exactly. If that's too much for you, you can always reach me on my phone. If I don't answer, I promise I'll call you back. Call or text me at 513-257-9683, 513-257-9683. And finally, you can find me on the website, HamiltonDemo.com. And it's got my number on there too. And it's got all the media stuff, easy to get a hold of me. But feel free. I would love any inquiries. And even if you just want to chat and just have a discovery call, please. I welcome those, because you never know what comes from that. And there's no fee or charge for discovery calls as well. So
excellent. Ivan, thank you so much for sharing your story today, bringing the value that you brought. can you leave us and leave the audience, what's one thing that these recruiters should, know, one piece of advice that you can leave them with today on the show?
Oh, hey, that's a good question, Donnie. There's a couple things. Maybe I like to share my pleasant persistence sometimes with candidates and clients, right? Sometimes we're all busy.
Yep.
And I don't take things personally anymore. There was a time when I did. So when you think to yourself, hey, I've already called them 3 times, maybe, I'll just leave it up to them. 1 or 2 times may not hurt. Pleasant persistence. They'll feel it too. They'll know the difference between you just kind of slapping smiling and dialing versus being pleasantly persistent.
Yep.
And another thing that I've recently come to realize is I'm getting old. And for all my recruiters out there, I'm 51 years old now. So for any of the recruiters out there who are feeling the pain of the younger generation when you call them and they direct you to their text back and forth rather than have a conversation on the phone, I guess we all need to change and adapt with the times, right?
Yep.
And I think that's just the way that generation prefers to communicate. So again, don't get too frustrated.
Yep.
Just take a deep breath and try to go with the flow.
Love it, man. Fortunes in the follow-up and adapt to the times. That's where that voice note comes into power.
Yes.
Well, good stuff, man. Thank you very much for joining us. Relevant Recruiter Group. We will be back with another show next Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific. Everybody have a great weekend. Ivan, again, thank you. And we'll see everyone next week.
Bonnie, thank you so much.
You got it, man.